Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to our webinar this afternoon. Fact or Fiction, we're taking a look at the top 5 myths about digital marketing, specifically for business-to-business organisations, and with a particular slant for small business as well. But there will be some content there, I think, that will appeal to larger organisations, so hopefully there'll be some practical information and hints and tips for everybody. So let's take a look at the agenda then for the next 20-25 minutes or so. We're going to start off by taking a look at some of the changes in the marketing landscape, and there have been quite a lot of changes, I think, particularly when you consider the last 7 or 8 years. Then we're going to delve into the marketing myths themselves and try and dispel some of the misconceptions perhaps that are out there in relation to digital marketing. And finally, we're going to end with some practical tips on how to build a successful digital marketing engine. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the presentation, just to explain briefly a little bit about me, my name is Deirdre Cashin. I'm from Profit Marketing Consultancy, and I'm basically a freelance marketeer. I've been working for the last 20 years or so in the marketing arena. I've seen a lot of change during that time, it's fair to say. For the last 13 years now, I've been working as a freelance marketeer, primarily working with smaller businesses, but as you can see from my client portfolio, some larger companies in there too. Prior to that, I was the marketing manager and channel sales manager for 3Com, who, if you remember, at one stage employed over 2,000 people here in Blanchardstown in North Dublin. So I've been in a marketing role, I've been in a sales role, so I guess I've seen it from both sides of the equation, if you like, and for that reason I like to think that I have a fairly strong sales slant in terms of my approach to marketing as well. So moving on, we'll have a look at the changes in the marketing landscape, and I think it's fair to say that the internet has really turned traditional marketing on its head. If you go back to the the 80s to the 90s, even the noughties, a lot of traditional marketing activity consisted of advertising in newspapers, magazines, a lot of radio, a lot of direct mail. But now we have all these extra digital marketing channels, and really they reflect, I suppose, a huge amount of media fragmentation. And if you think about it, I mean, we've so many media now that we can tap into, and maybe some of the more traditional ones like newspapers and magazines are on the wane. And this media fragmentation has made it more difficult for marketeers to actually reach their target audience. And actually the image that's displayed here on screen is quite an apt one, because really a lot of this change in the marketing landscape has brought the marketing efforts down to a micro-segmentation level, or what we need to be able to do now, rather than using broad brush, broad marketing campaigns, we need to be able to drill down to the level of the individual. And it's the internet and internet technologies that have changed this shift, I suppose, in balance between suppliers and customers. So the marketing landscape, as I say, has changed dramatically. Let's take a look at the media consumption landscape here in Ireland. TV is still top of the pile at 15.4 hours a week. Perhaps no surprise there. But it's interesting because with the likes of Sky Plus and UPC, we've become very sophisticated about tuning out adverts that we see now on telly. I don't know how many of you, maybe when the ads come on, put the program on pause, nip out, make a cup of tea, come back in and forward it on, and very slickly skip those ads that advertisers are hoping to catch us with. Online, as you can see, huge amount of time spent online now every week, 13.5 hours for the average adult now here in Ireland. And surprisingly, radio is holding its own, but I think traditionally the Irish have been a very strong radio listening population, and that loyalty remains with still very strong listenership volume there in terms of the overall market. No surprises to see that newspapers and magazines, well, their consumption has fallen quite dramatically over the last period of time. We've all seen some of big titles here in Ireland run into financial difficulty. Some of them have closed, some of them have restructured, they're back on the market again. But I think it's fair to say newspapers and magazines in particular are really struggling to find a business model that helps them survive, but also takes into account internet technology and the spread of news, I suppose, via digital channels. So what does this all mean for us as marketeers? Well, I think it means this slide here. It means it's really not about business to consumer or business to business anymore. It's about H to H or human to human. So digital marketing technologies now demand this micro-segmentation from marketeers, that we drill down to the individual level and try and influence the individual with communications. It's not about mass marketing anymore or mass advertising. That really doesn't cut it. We need to drill down to this, to a really, really granular level, to understand our customers, understand their personas, and to try and tap into them then to be successful, I suppose. Some business technology facts just before we delve into the detail. These figures from the Central Statistics Office just from December gone. Very surprising to see that 25% of companies still have no website. And when you consider that over 4 billion was spent online by Irish consumers in 2012, you know, you really have to ask the question, are Irish organisations missing out on an opportunity to go online, to trade online, and to build their business online? Now, of course, e-commerce and online trading isn't going to be a suitable business model for everybody, but if we can only, you know, secure a very, very small portion of that revenue, I think it would really benefit the economy hugely. And I think, you know, companies have to, you know, look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, well, are they really putting their best foot forward in terms of their online presence, or if they've no presence at all, is it something they really need to look at quite urgently? Quite surprising to see that almost half of businesses are using blogs, so they obviously consider them to be quite an important mechanism to spread the gospel or spread the word, if you like, and influence potential decision makers. They're using 1/5 are using multimedia content sharing websites, so that might be the likes of YouTube, for example, so still pretty low adoption levels there. Interesting to see 1 in 3 will use social media to develop the company's image. But I suppose the question is, to what degree are they using social media, and are they really using it properly? Social media, of course, is being used by a lot of organisations, particularly very large ones, to respond to customer feedback. And I know I've been guilty myself in the past when I run into customer service issues with large organisations to immediately grab for Twitter and send out an email, and it usually garners a fairly quick response in terms of resolving my problem, because organisations simply don't want to be seen to be causing problems for the customers. So Irish enterprises employing 10 or more persons, as you see, have used some form of, 48% I should say, of those organisations have used some form of social media, such as LinkedIn, Twitter or YouTube, and that's well above the EU average, which stands at just 30%. So we seem to be fairly strong adopters of social media in that context, but obviously still a lot of companies not engaging in that. So let's look at myth number 1. Our website is really only there to act as an online brochure for our organisation. Well, really no, I think it's fair to say that it's not, and I think particularly in a business-to-business environment, your website is your most important digital asset. If you think about it, your website is the one thing that customers have access to immediately at the press of a button, and surely you would want to portray, you know, a professional, slick, image to those customers when they view your website for the first time. First impressions do count and do last. So it's really important for companies to invest properly in their digital footprint. And I don't only mean in terms of making the website aesthetically pleasing, you know, that it's friendly on the eye, but it also must deliver a good customer experience when the visitor logs onto the website. And what do we mean by a good user experience for the site? Well, what we mean is that they can find the content that they're looking for. And this is an area where I feel a lot of small businesses in particular fall down. They immediately set up a website, and their first, I suppose, inclination is to set up a website that talks about them. This is who we are. This is where we've come from. This is what we do. But really, you know, what I try and advise customers to do is to really turn that on its head and say, no, your website should not be what I call egocentric, but rather it should be customer centric. Try and put yourself into the visitor's shoes. Why is somebody visiting your website? They're visiting a website because they have a challenge, they have a problem, they're looking for something, and it's very, very important to understand the motivation for that visit and to try and craft content and position content that answers those challenges or problems that visitors have when they come to your website. So make your website customer centric, not egocentric. And really the website is very important from another perspective, and that is it's the repository for all of your content. So everything that you provide, from information about your services to perhaps industry information, valuable advice and guidance, whether it's your blogs, if you've any videos to share, all of your content sits up on the website. So it's a very, very valuable repository for your organization, and really it requires investment, it requires time, and it requires resource on an ongoing basis to keep it to a level where it is able to attract customers and keep them engaged. And the other point I'd make about the website is content is king, and I suppose this is another spillover from the proliferation of digital marketing channels. These channels give us a huge opportunity to share content, to share information, and I'm not talking about sales propaganda. I'm talking about information that is of genuine interest and value to your customers. So the development of content has become really, really important, and I know it's something that a lot of customers are and organizations are struggling with at the moment. It may not necessarily be something that you can do in-house yourself. Maybe you have to contract in some expertise to help with that. There are lots of freelance journalists out there, myself included. Actually, I also write for the Sunday Business Post, but there are also journalists and writers out there that can help develop content for your site. And a piece of content that engages a customer is something that's very valuable. Another myth, and this is again is a question I'm asked a lot when I talk to organizations, is social media a complete waste of time in a business-to-business environment? And I suppose the answer is no. But it comes with a little bit of a health warning, and it depends very much on what your own business objectives are. You have to choose your social media channels very carefully, and for organizations that are active in a business-to-business environment in particular, Facebook, for example, may not be the most appropriate channel for you to use. On the other hand, large multinational organizations such as SAP, for example, have several Facebook pages, and they use that very effectively as a recruitment channel for their organization. So for large organizations it may be appropriate, for smaller ones maybe not so. LinkedIn and Twitter, they're obviously the two key business-to-business channels that I recommend for customers. And Twitter in particular allows you to engage obviously with people on a one-to-one basis, and that can be very important. An example for one customer that I worked with there recently, they're an ERP company working across Ireland, Great Britain and France, and they use Twitter as a mechanism to influence their parent vendor, if you like, which is Oracle. So they sell JD Edwards ERP systems, and they use Twitter then to stay top of mind with Oracle, and I suppose to keep themselves in a communication loop there. Oracle, as they get leads into their organization, obviously pass the leads to resellers, and this particular reseller uses Twitter as a mechanism, as I say, to keep themselves top of mind and to make sure that when a lead hits Oracle that's relevant to where they're operating, that they make sure that they're the first person on that list that get that lead, and that actually works extremely well for them. So that's a good example of where you really need to understand, well, what's my business objective, and map then the social media channel to that. Email marketing is dead. Well, it's not. It's alive and well. But I think on the other hand, email does get a lot of bad press, and I think it's fair to say we're all bombarded every day of the week with a huge amount of spam email and other email too, I think, from organizations who don't respect unsubscribe policies. And that's a really, really important element of overall email execution, that those unsubscribe policies are respected and are executed properly. Open rates and click rates are difficult to maintain. There's no question about that. But I would argue that that's, directly related to quality. You must have something valuable, insightful, interesting to say to your customers. Email is not a propaganda platform for yourself. If you genuinely share information which is of value and help to your customers rather than constantly trying to sell them something, I think you will find a much better engagement level with them. Dual screening actually is an interesting phenomenon, and I think we're probably all familiar with this aspect where maybe, around the TV at night we're all sitting there watching the telly and everyone is on their mobile device as well at the same time, surfing the internet, whether it's on a tablet device or a smartphone device. And I did some interesting experimentations recently with one of my clients where we started sending out our emails in the evening time at about 8:30 at night. And we found that we were able to uplift our open rates and our click rates by about 10% simply by adjusting those timings. So we were getting a huge peak in open traffic and click traffic at the time the email was sent out at about 8:30 at night, and then we were getting a second peak in traffic at about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning when people got into work and accessed their email from their desktop. So that actually worked very well for one of my clients, and it's an interesting phenomenon, and again showing where the consumerization of IT, if you like, where technology is coming into the home, and that's actually having a positive knock-on effect for business. Email is very, very measurable in terms of being able to assess the success of open rates, click rates. You can also very easily establish, the best times of day to send email. I've just done actually a big analytics project for part of DCU in relation to the emails they send out, and simply by looking at the numbers without looking at any content, I was able to establish things like, well, what are the best days to send out email, what are the best times, is there a relationship between the type of email that's sent and perhaps the time of day it's sent, what type of emails drive the best open rates or drive the best click rates? Are they event-related emails? Are they press-related emails? Are they application-related emails to DCU, for example? So it's a very, very interesting exercise, I think, to carry out to actually look at your email and see how it's performing. Which I suppose that point leads quite nicely on to the last myth I have here, which is I can't measure the results from my digital marketing campaigns. And of course, that's completely untrue, because actually digital marketing is one of the most measurable forms of marketing there is. If you look at it from a very, very simplistic basis, bringing us back to our fulcrum, our central point of the website, looking at Google Analytics there's a huge amount of intelligence that you can build from analytics in terms of your visitors, where they're coming from, what device they're using. You can look at, what content is most engaging on your site, where are they spending most time, and you can also look at the user flow through your website in terms of, well, where are people dropping off, where are people exiting the website, perhaps because maybe the content isn't as compelling there as it could be. We've spoken in detail already about email measurement, which is very, very transparent, and also social media can be measured quite easily too. For example, online influence can be measured on Twitter through things like tweet level, clout, peer index, and some of these tools also allow you to actually identify some of the most important influencers in your industry. And influence itself is a very, very interesting subject, and I guess we could do a webinar on influence on its own, and perhaps we'll do one of those in the near future. But again, very, very measurable from a return on investment point of view. LinkedIn, again, we can see from updates that we send out what the level of engagement is in terms of impressions and clicks. We can look at the number of company followers to our website, analyse those over time. Facebook fans, online PR, we can set alerts on Google to see when there are online mentions of our website or of our organisation, I should say, if we send out a press release. And gated content, of course, is a very, very effective way of capturing user information. For example, I did an ebook there recently for one of my customers around Wi-Fi in schools, and we've put the ebook up on the website with a nice little form to fill in, and as people fill that in, they can get a complimentary copy of the ebook, and obviously that gives my client information that they can follow up and see if there's any level of interest there from a point of view of Wi-Fi in schools. So digital marketing is a very measurable form of marketing, but it does require time in terms of sitting down, analysing those reports and trying to draw insights from the intelligence in those reports to give actionable items in the future. The last point then, I need a bigger marketing department and an even bigger budget to manage my digital marketing efforts. Well, again, I would argue that isn't necessarily true. I think there is a perception out there with small businesses that digital marketing is cheap to perform, and there's no doubt about it that there are lots of free tools, free software packages that you can use to get stuff done. There's absolutely no doubt about that, but I would argue that digital marketing is very labour intensive and that you do need to put the time, the human time and effort behind it to get it right. So you know, when you come to build this, you know, your digital marketing engine, the most important thing really to do is to start at a high level and decide on your overall goals and objectives. Well, you know, what looks like success for me? What do I want to get out of this digital marketing program? And really those goals and objectives will drive the activities that you do and the channels that you use and the measures and metrics, I suppose, that you set for your plan. Analysis of your target audience is very, very important, and we've obviously, you know, already mentioned about, you know, drilling down into that micro segmentation level, you know, looking at human to human, engaging with people on a one-to-one basis. And what I try and encourage businesses to do is to try and develop a persona for their buyers. So, you know, who are their buyers? Who buys their product? Who influences the product? And, you know, where can they be found online? What are their online habits, etc., etc.? And by trying to build a picture of this, it will help you identify the most appropriate digital marketing channels for your plan. It can be very daunting, there's no doubt about it, to dive into all of this, and there's so many things you can do, there's so much stuff you can measure. But again, I try and encourage businesses to start small. You know, walk before you can run, and take manageable chunks of activity that you can do, that you can perform them well, that you can actually measure when the activity is complete, and that you can apply some form of learning then to that activity, so that when you repeat that activity down the road, that you can apply some knowledge, some learning to it, and then improve the outcome second time round. So this, you know, you have a constant cycle of measuring, analysing, planning, executing, and using the knowledge then to continually refine what you do, to continually improve, and obviously to drive better outcomes from your marketing activities. Another important point, again, and this is very important for smaller organisations where resources are limited, be very, very clever about managing your assets and about building your assets. And yes, I'll make the point again about planning, but be very focused on what you're trying to do and plan those manageable chunks, get them done, measure them, refine them, and start again. You know, try and build processes around your workflow that really give you maximum bang for your buck, if you like. And here's a practical example of what I mean. So I would do a lot of kind of press releases and case studies for people. So what I say to them is, you know, use that one process of interviewing the customer, you know, to generate your online PR, to generate perhaps a written case study, and then using some stock imagery. For example, you could use a video tool like Animoto to produce a very brief 2 to 3 minute video which tells the story of your customer and how you've helped them to better run their business in some shape or form. So from that one process, you've actually developed 3 separate pieces of content. And that's what I mean about being clever about managing your content and developing your content. Try and build in those processes at the start and identify the different things that you can build out from that one piece of content. I mentioned it briefly already in relation to hiring in extra capacity. You know, content is really, really important, and you know, a good marketeer, you know, while they might be able to write and they might be able to generate a certain amount of content, maybe, you know, their resources so stretched that they can't just generate enough content to keep the marketing wheels turning, if you like. So again, there's nothing to stop you going out to the market and trying to hire in some extra capacity or some extra expertise where you need it. There are lots of freelance marketeers out there, freelance developers, freelance website developers, etc., etc., that can help, and you can draft them in on an as needed basis without actually adding to headcount, and that can be an extremely effective way of getting things done, you know, without adding huge overhead to your marketing costs. I've robbed this slide from our friends in HubSpot, who are the experts in inbound marketing, and really it summarizes very nicely where we're trying to get to with our digital marketing efforts. So I think it's fair to say traditional marketing is all about outbound activity. You know, it's about placing ads in newspapers. It's about, you know, outbound telemarketing. It's about running, you know, events, etc., live events, etc., etc. It's all about, that's all about interruptive outbound activity. But really what we're trying to do is make a shift from outbound to inbound marketing. And what I mean by that is we want customers to be able to find us. So whether they're on a website and they're typing in a keyword looking for a particular product or service, whether they stumble across your blog which has a particularly insightful piece perhaps on an aspect of the technology industry, or whether they're on social media and they stumble across your Twitter profile or your LinkedIn profile and they think, oh, that actually sounds quite interesting. So all of a sudden customers are finding you as opposed to you going out to market, interrupting customers maybe when they don't particularly want to be interrupted. You know, the beauty of this model is customers are coming to you because they're looking for something in particular, and perhaps your product or service answers that demand that they have. And through each stage of this sales funnel, if you like, which is represented by the block here, we can use different tactics, different digital marketing tactics. So to attract people, we can use, as I mentioned, things like blog, we can use search, we can use search engine optimization or paid search, organic search. We can use landing pages, for example, where we might be giving away an ebook and we might encourage people to fill out a form, give us their details so that we can engage further with them. And then I suppose at the other end of the scale altogether, we might run events to try and, you know, keep customers happy and to eventually turn them into brand advocates, if you like, and, you know, making our customers create positive word of mouth about our organization, our people, our staff, and the experience that they have in dealing with our company. So that's it from me today, folks. I hope you found the session interesting. My contact details here. You can contact me at any stage if you'd like to have a chat about any of the content here, or indeed there's any aspect of your digital marketing that you're struggling with. I'd be more than happy to come and have a chat. So thank you for your attention today, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you.